Ferrari has officially pulled the plug on the development of the 2025 car, and it's a decision that had been anticipated for a few weeks but has now been confirmed. In fact, the car did not meet expectations, and from Maranello they have chosen to focus entirely on 2026. But where can Ferrari still impress this year? There are 3 specific tracks, which we will examine later, where Ferrari holds elevated expectations and can also compete against McLaren. In today's video, we will delve into the detailed preparation for the Baku race occurring this upcoming weekend. Let's take a look at the choice of Pirelli tires. We need to analyze the federation's decisions for next year regarding both the sprint races and the various aerodynamic appendages. And finally, we will see how a former Ferrari employee is working. Before we start, please leave a supportive like, subscribe, and activate notifications so you don't miss any videos about Formula 1 and Ferrari. With that being stated, let's begin immediately. The 2025 Ferrari season commenced with significant promises, but already in Melbourne during March, it became evident that something was not functioning properly. From then on, the team rolled out a series of updates like aerodynamic packages, a redesigned floor, and a revamped rear suspension, yet the expected results didn't come. After more than 6 months of development, another disappointment came at Monza. No victory, no podium. It's a general feeling in the Risa area. For a team that always aims for the title, this season risked becoming one of the most disappointing in recent years. And because of this, in Maranello, they have even cancelled the updates that were already planned for September. This indicates that the SF25 has truly reached the end of its line. In fact, for weeks now, the current car is no longer being tested in the wind tunnel, but rather the new 2026 single-seater. And here lies the thought-provoking news. The 2026 Ferrari is already 70% ready with the chassis and suspension defined. The aerodynamics, on the other hand, will continue to be refined until November, about 2 months before the official presentations. This is a radical choice, but inevitable. With the financial budget case still available, Ferrari could have potentially pushed further developments to conclude the 2025 season with dignity. However, it opted not to do so, as all investments are already being directed towards the 2026 project. Consequently, we will no longer witness major update packages on the SF25, only minor targeted aerodynamic adjustments for the various circuits, utilizing the extensive range of rear wings already available. The year 2026 will be one of total revolution, with a new chassis, new aerodynamics, engines using 100% sustainable fuels, and a Formula 1 that is about to undergo the most radical change in its recent history. Ferrari simply cannot afford to arrive late, and this explains the rationale behind this drastic decision. Reflecting back, the ground effect era appears to have significantly revitalized Maranello. Initially, the direction was indeed correct, but with the progressively more restrictive technical directives and the competitors' enhanced ability to more effectively exploit the new regulations, Ferrari unfortunately lost its way. The year 2025 proves it. While McLaren and Red Bull continue to fight at the top, the red team struggles. This is why 2026 becomes a historic opportunity. We're talking about a car already ahead in development compared to what was done in the past, with months of work gained over the competitors. The chassis and suspension, which are already established at 70%, represent a significant signal. In Maranello, they have comprehended that they can no longer afford to arrive at the last moment. And my perspective is clear, this is indeed the correct choice, but also a substantial risk. Abandoning the concluding segment of the season implies granting rivals unrestricted control in 2025, with the potential risk of distancing supporters and sponsors. However, if Ferrari genuinely aspires to reclaim a championship victory after numerous years of anticipation, it must focus on the future and utilize every possible moment to prepare for the 2026 transformation. Essentially, it involves relinquishing the present to capitalize on the future, which remains unwritten. This is the most effective solution for Ferrari today. But the question is simple. Will this early investment be enough to close the gap with McLaren, which remains the leader in grey? And despite Ferrari having finalized the developments on the SF-D5 and with the new 2026 vehicle already being approximately 70% developed, there are genuine opportunities this year with the existing car to secure victories on 3 different tracks. Let's examine which ones. The Italian Grand Prix confirmed a reality that is now quite evident. The SF-D5 has indeed improved with the summer updates, but not sufficiently to close the gap with the competitors. McLaren has persistently continued to expand its reach, Red Bull has consistently proven to be a solid contender, and Ferrari has remained stuck in that uncomfortable position of being the second force intermittently, sometimes even falling to the third force. August appeared to be an excellent month, particularly in Hungary, where Ferrari nearly managed to achieve a significant triumph. Leclerc capitalized on qualifying and the unobstructed air during the race to establish the pace. It appeared to be the ideal opportunity. And it was not by chance that he himself mentioned it was likely the greatest chance to secure a victory by the conclusion of the year. Nevertheless, there are additional opportunities, and Monza indirectly illustrated this. McLaren faces challenges when compelled to operate in a configuration with reduced aerodynamic downforce. It occurred in Italy and is set to occur once more in Baku and Las Vegas, two circuits where Ferrari must be thoroughly prepared. In Baku, Leclerc possesses a unique affinity, having achieved 4 consecutive pole positions since the year 2021, a record that demonstrates how effectively the Monegasque driver can extract the utmost performance on this particular track. If we consider that the McLaren MCL39 in this scenario will not be able to depend on its typical dynamic aerodynamic load, Ferrari could potentially emerge as a key player once more. The same applies to Las Vegas, which is a notably fast circuit but features numerous low-speed restarts. In this scenario, with the vulnerable McLaren, another factor comes into play. Mercedes, which excels on stop-and-go tracks. With cooler temperatures and evening races in Las Vegas, it could bring surprising outcomes. However, the real threat will surely be Red Bull. Verstappen, even with less aerodynamic load, remains a very strong competitor, as he showed with the pole at Silverstone and the sprint win at Spa, plus the pole position and victory at Monza. The third opportunity for Ferrari will be in Singapore. The Asian street circuit is very reminiscent of Monte Carlo, where the SF25 showcased its strengths in May. Winding, with minimal time spent at elevated speeds and a surface that endures less. All conditions that are advantageous for Ferrari. We are aware that Red Bull encounters challenges with navigating the elevated curbs which are present in Singapore, so they might encounter difficulties there as they have demonstrated in previous years. Singapore is somewhat more flowing in comparison to Monaco, and this characteristic can potentially benefit McLaren, which excels at medium velocity ranges. Nevertheless, it continues to be advantageous terrain if the red team can effectively interpret the setup. It remains a track similar to Hungary. The updates brought by Ferrari, such as the new rear suspension, have shown encouraging signs. The data indicates better control of the ride height and an increase in downforce from the floor. However, the issue persists with the speed of development. Maranello has indeed made some progress, yet McLaren has advanced even further. This is where the distinction becomes evident between those who commence the year already in the lead and those who solidify their advantage and must pursue. In my perspective, Ferrari must adopt an opportunistic mindset. They cannot afford to focus solely on winning through sheer force, but they should consistently aim to establish themselves as the second dominant force to capitalize on any challenges or issues that others might encounter. It is indeed an uncomfortable position, yet it is realistic. In my opinion, the genuine opportunity continues to be in Baku, where Leclerc has consistently been masterful, and if the SF25 can effectively capitalize on McLaren's decline in low downforce, a victory could potentially be within reach. Singapore and Las Vegas are tracks to be played well, but there will be more competition there. For example, Red Bull and Mercedes, who won't leave much room. In summary, Ferrari still has the potential to avert a winless season, but they must be exceptionally precise. No errors, flawless strategy, and the utmost readiness to seize every possible opportunity. And we will see if Maranello will be able to seize at least one of these opportunities, or if 2025 will also be remembered as a year of regrets. Baku has always delivered exciting and controversial races. If we reflect upon the confrontation involving Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton back in 2017 under the safety car, where Ricciardo remarkably emerged victorious starting from the 10th position. In 2018, there was the well-known collision between Ricciardo and Verstappen on the straightaway in turn 1. We also recall Verstappen's tire blowout in 2021 when Hamilton went wide after the restart, with one of the most glaring mistakes in its history. And if we talk about Leclerc, who secured 4 consecutive poles, but only in 2024 did he make it to the podium behind Piastri. Let us examine the tires that Pirelli is bringing for this particular track and how the various teams are getting ready. Pirelli's concept is quite clear, as opening the doors is a strategic move, with 2 pit stops planned for Baku. In reality, in Baku, there is typically minimal degradation and limited grip. With the 2024 tire, teams discovered it was straightforward to manage the race with just a single pit stop. This year, however, with the compound that is less susceptible to graining, the window expands, theoretically leading to more diverse scenarios. We remember in 2024 when Gasly impressively managed to complete a total of 50 laps on hard tires before switching to soft ones on the next to last lap. Nevertheless, this year, the C4, C5 and C6 tires will be employed, which are slightly softer compared to the previous year. If in the previous year everyone primarily employed a single stop strategy, this year a 2-stop strategy could potentially be feasible. It will significantly depend on the tire degradation and the track temperatures. How is Hamilton getting ready for the forthcoming races and for the year 2026? Let's examine this together. In the current standings, Lewis is trailing by 46 points behind Charles Leclerc, who has already achieved 5 podium finishes. The only joy for the Englishman is the victory in the Shanghai Sprint, while on Sunday the podium never came, and these numbers tell of a difficult adaptation to a Ferrari that is complex to interpret. Hamilton elaborates that throughout his career, progress has rarely been instantaneous. There have been intricate periods even more challenging than the current situation. At Mercedes, he engaged in a progressive development process that enabled him to comprehend the car thoroughly, both inside and out. With the SF25, however, in order to achieve speed, one must drive in a manner that feels unnatural, deviating from one's instinctual approach. Over the course of the weekend, the sensation improves progressively with each lap, and confidence gradually grows. The pace becomes more refined, performance enhances, but the beginning often remains challenging, which hinders establishing a solid weekend foundation right from Friday. For this reason, for Hamilton, the goal for 2026 is to get him back behind the wheel of a familiar car capable of enhancing his qualities without forcing his style. The newly established technical regulations provide an opportunity for him to undergo retraining and commence from a more robust foundation with the team. There is no skepticism in selecting Ferrari, but rather an understanding that the journey is extensive. The declared objective is to redefine the competitive relationship with the red team. The 2026 car will need to be natural to drive so as to put Lewis in a position to express the maximum of his DNA behind the wheel. And speaking of the year 2026, the proposal to alter the wings was ultimately rejected. Let's delve into what this entails. Last week, immediately following the Italian Grand Prix, a meeting was convened in Geneva between the FIA and team technicians to discuss certain regulatory aspects associated with the 2026 vehicles when the new technical revolution will officially come into effect. One of the primary topics of discussion was the potential modification of the regulations concerning the wings, both at the front and rear of the vehicles. The objective was to streamline the development process of a highly intricate matter such as active aerodynamics, which will be pivotal in the forthcoming generation of automobiles. To amend the regulations, the consensus of all teams was necessary, but unanimity was not achieved. Consequently, the proposal was dismissed, likely due to resistance from those who perceived they already possess a competitive edge in development, given that the FIA officially initiated aerodynamic research only from January 1st, 2025. Underlying this debate is a significant matter: aerodynamic efficiency. The newly designed single-seaters will be required to decrease their electric energy consumption for each lap, as on specific tracks such as at Monza, the MGK will not be capable of recuperating a sufficient amount of energy during the braking phases. The genuine risk is ultimately ending up with a significantly depleted battery before reaching the finish line, compelling drivers to lift and coast along the straight, thereby relinquishing a portion of the roughly 500 horsepower supplied by the hybrid system. This particular episode illustrates how challenging it is to implement changes within the existing governance framework, which mandates unanimity for every single modification. It is a constraint that significantly hinders technical evolution and poses a risk of freezing the advantages that have been gained. It's no coincidence that Stefano Domenicali has been insisting for some time on the need to review the management structure of Formula One. In my opinion, the lack of changes to the wing regulations is a clear signal. Those who currently have an advantage in aerodynamics do not want to give up ground. It's understandable, but it risks penalizing the spectacle and competitiveness of 2026. The problem is that the new regulations are born with already evident limitations, with the battery at its limit, complicated energy recovery, and the need for hyper-efficient aerodynamics. Restricting the potential for making developments more adaptable from the very outset risks leading to races that are considerably more tactical than spectacular, with drivers being compelled to manage energy instead of genuinely pushing themselves. And if Formula One aspires to avoid transforming into a competition of conserving, the FIA along with the teams will need to muster the courage to thoroughly revise these regulations. Delaying any adjustments until the year 2026 poses a significantly dangerous decision. Moreover, for the year 2026, additional sprint races have been planned and decided upon. Indeed, the quantity of sprint races is on the rise, and the circuits are undergoing changes as well. There will be 6 weekends incorporating the Saturday format that includes the sprint race, albeit with some noteworthy new elements. The racing season is set to commence with the events in Shanghai and Miami, both of which have been confirmed for the 3rd consecutive season, featuring the sprint race weekend format. In the month of July, Silverstone will make its return. This is the track that hosted the inaugural sprint race back in 2021. The genuine novelties are in Montreal, Zandvoort, and Singapore, which will be joining the club of short races for the very first time. Spa, Austin, and Los Isles will be dropped from the scene, while for the first time there will not be a sprint race in Brazil. According to Liberty Media data, the sprint races have led to a significant increase in audience. In the year 2024, the television audience for sprint race weekends was, on average, roughly 10% higher when compared to the traditional Grand Prix events. The sprint sessions experienced a 23% increase in global viewership, and in the year 2025, Hamilton's first victory with Ferrari in Shanghai, China, led to a substantial surge in viewership, with an 84% increase in the audience across the 15 primary markets compared to the previous year. In short, the sprint races are popular with broadcasters and bring in numbers that encourage Formula One to maintain the format. And Stefano Domenicali said that the sprint race format has continued to grow since 2021. With 3 new venues, the 2026 season will be even more exciting. The year that will mark the commencement of the new regulatory era, Ben Surayem further added that sprint races provide high-intensity competitions and supplementary entertainment. It's encouraging to witness new tracks alongside the traditional ones. From my viewpoint regarding television entertainment and marketing strategies, sprint races are effective. They attract audiences, enhance visibility, and maintain high levels of attention on Saturdays. The data certainly does not deceive. However, as an avid track enthusiast and a devoted fan of the traditional weekend format, which I greatly favor over the sprint race weekend, I am still convinced that not every track is perfectly suited for the sprint race. Zandvoort and Singapore are already spectacular tracks for Sunday, doubling the action risks, taking away some of the anticipation for the main GP. On the other hand, it would have been interesting to keep Spa, which, with its variable weather and unique layout, would have made the sprint race more unpredictable. In summary, the sprint races are set to remain in place for the year 2026 and are likely to expand even further in 2027. However, the selection of circuits remains absolutely crucial. If they are well calibrated, they can significantly enhance the weekend experience. If not, they risk diminishing the allure of the Sunday race. I am genuinely curious to hear your thoughts on the sprint races and these anticipated track changes for 2026. Nevertheless, before we wrap up the video, we must listen to the insights of Enrico Cardile. Indeed, the former Ferrari technician has expressed his thoughts regarding Aston Martin and the future that lies ahead, as Lawrence Stroll has not concealed his ambitious aspirations. With the new regulations on the horizon, Aston Martin aims to become a major player. To achieve this, they have secured two heavyweight names, Adrian Newey, an aerodynamics genius, and now Enrico Cardile, former technical director of Ferrari. Despite the expectations, however, not everyone believes that 2026 will be the year of an immediate leap. Riccardo Patrese himself, after speaking with Newey at Goodwood, stated that they don't think they can fight for the title right away. They still lack a certain indefinable quality, and Cardile appeared with immense enthusiasm at the newly established Silverstone campus. He expressed, "I am genuinely delighted to have become an integral part of this team. Here, all the essential resources required to attain outstanding results are readily available. I will be supervising the entire development process of the car, encompassing performance, design, and testing. The wind tunnel is among the most advanced in the world, and Adrian Newey is a great inspiration, while Andy Cowell is very attentive to every detail. It won't be immediate, it will take time, but we will give our best." These are words that reflect confidence, but also an awareness of the challenges faced by a team that has not yet consolidated a winning DNA. The arrival of Cardile alongside Newey and Cowell is a development that can truly change the prospects of Aston Martin. Nevertheless, contemplating a World Championship title as early as 2026 is quite optimistic. It will require time and consistent stability to evolve a still relatively young organization into a genuine war machine akin to Red Bull, Mercedes, or even McLaren and Ferrari. The difference could potentially be made by the harmonious combination of Newey's visionary approach and Cardile's systematic method. If they successfully manage to integrate, Aston Martin could transform into significantly more than just an outsider. Currently, the common view is that 2026 will be more about development than ultimate success. The real breakthrough, if it happens, could come in 2027 or 2028 when the gathered experience truly pays off. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on all the topics we've discussed in the video. As always, I remind you to leave a like and subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss any news about Formula 1 and Ferrari. Here at Last Two Tuto, we will definitely